Hi, buyers and sellers. This is Liz Tyler-Loncar of Ebby Halliday Realtors with your October edition of Keeping Current Matters. It's a really interesting time in the real estate industry right now. The 10-year Treasury is just about to bounce off 5%, and of course, that sent mortgage rates skyrocketing almost to 8%. So, the time you listen to this, we might still be in the high sevens, we might have dropped down a little bit, or we might be over 8. And obviously, any one of those scenarios will have an impact on the business. But right now, I want to concentrate on the things that we can control. And one thing that we can control is looking for the opportunities in the market and studying the market. So, where are the opportunities? What are the myths? There's a lot of confusion right now. So, let's jump into the data and it will help clear up things. First off, I want to try and get rid of a couple of myths that are in the marketplace right now that are really confusing to a lot of people. The number one myth, foreclosures are increasing. There are more and more headlines with reports that have come out showing that foreclosures are increasing. And that's not wrong, but it's also not true. Foreclosures are increasing, but what they're talking about in the headlines is they're up 100%, 187%. And that's what's not happening. We're not comparing foreclosures today versus foreclosures of 2 years ago. And I've got some graphs that can kind of help with that. So the number of foreclosures in 2023 are nearly at an all-time low. We have this graph that shows the number of foreclosures in red going back all the way to 2003 and then all the way currently where we're at in 2023. Foreclosures this year are actually lower than where the numbers were at in 2019. Okay, so let's jump into our second myth. Are Airbnbs going to crash the housing market? I don't think so, and this is highly a regionally specific issue. However, I do think there's opportunities in the Airbnb market, and I just want you to be aware of the data and why I don't think it's going to be crash to the housing market. It doesn't mean it's not going to have an impact on the market. We can't go in the opposite direction of the pendulum swing all the way back, that there's no challenge. This will be this will be a regionally specific challenge or an opportunity as far as across the US. And the reason I'm a little bit concerned about the data that came out from Realtor.com, a census-wide survey just recently done showed that 59.8% of sellers who are selling their house would consider renting out their current house rather than sell it if they were to buy or rent another home in the future. That 6 out of 10 are saying, yeah, I'd consider renting my house in the short-term rental. Approximately 20% said it would be great to have extra income from a renter. And approximately 18% said the idea of owning a rental or investment property appeals to them. This is something that's going to have an effect on our inventory if our sellers do decide to keep the properties instead of selling them. Another thing of consideration is a lot of people are just not wanting to lose those 3% interest rates on those homes. Another area of concern is many of these have never been a landlord before, and owning property and being a landlord, it's a business. Everybody's out there saying, I want to be a landlord, I want the extra money, but do they want to have the call at 3 o'clock in the morning saying that the toilet's not working? Well, since there's so many business aspects to being a landlord, this could be something where we're going to see a short term where they're wanting to be a landlord and then deciding that's not right for them and those properties coming on the market. But it's definitely going to be contributing towards the fact that those initial first-time home buyers inventory is going to be reduced. Well, June 4th of 2023, we had the announcement in New York City as far as their changes to Airbnb, VRBOs, or any short-term rentals. There were 22,500 short-term rental listings before the announcement, and then it fell to 4,600 after the law had changed. That's unbelievable. That means there are about 17,000 people that were renting out their house as short-term rentals that can no longer do that. Now, of course, they can still rent out those homes on a long-term rental, but what they can't do is that short-term rental income if they were going to use that property for, let's say, use the summer, and then the rest of the months they would rent it out on a short-term basis. This could be an opportunity for those in that market, but it remains to see if we're going to see those properties come on the market. Okay, so we've got the flip side of the issue. Airbnbs across the country have not been, have actually increased as far as the laws allowing them to be able to rent out their properties. In Phoenix in 2016, the state law passed across the state that banned any city or town from capping the number of short-term rentals. They went on to basically say, you guys can have as many short-term rentals as you want, and nobody can put a limit to that. Well, that kind of changed some things in Arizona when they basically said in 2016 you can have as many rentals as you want. So now in Phoenix, which is a popular destination for Airbnbs, there were 20,000 short-term rental units. That was a lot of competition. There is a lot of vacant property. It does make it more affordable to have a short-term rental in that city, but it's now those are investors that own those short-term properties most of the time. They were doing that for income. So we're going to see some opportunities coming on the market in some oversaturated markets for the Airbnb. So it's something to kind of keep your eyes on if you're thinking of moving to Arizona. Okay, our third myth that we want to cover is about Wall Street. Wall Street is buying every home in America. And this is something everyone is saying to me. This is why we don't have any inventory, because Wall Street has actually bought up all the available inventory for first-time home buyers. I know it's been in the Wall Street Journal, but why don't we kind of dive into just actually what the data shows us? So on this graphic, we've got the breakdown of the investor buyers. We have iBuyers, we have buyers that own 1,000 or more properties. We have buyers that own between 100 to 99 properties, and we have buyers that own from 10 to 99. And then the largest category, which is we call mom and pop investors, they own from 1 to 9. So far through Q2 of 2023, they were the biggest segment of buyers and have purchased 125,006 homes. This is really somebody like your neighbor next door has decided that real estate's a good investment and they want to own a rental property. And so in this graph, it's really showing you those categories of those different buyers and their impact as far as on the entire market. 0.3% is what the institutional buyer, that's going to be what you would see on the Wall Street buying up all the properties, that owns 1,000 or more properties. That's how much of a segment that they have purchased in the residential market. So they are really not that big of a share of it. We can see 19.6% are going to be those mom and pop buyers. So it's different. The data is actually showing something different than the media is reporting. And so this slide is from John Burns, and it was a recent survey that he came out of potential sellers on the market and how many of those were going to be deciding to rent their current home instead of putting on the market to sell. And his research that he's had just released shows 7% of current buyers that are also could be sellers are going to keep their home that they're in, and they're going to become landlords and lease it out. Another thing we have seen a lot in the media about is apartment construction. It is at a roaring 40-year high. That means that our renters have more choices. But we also had another survey that came out from Billiam showed that 32% of rental owners plan to sell their properties in the next 2 years. So that could be coming some more changes to the market too. So with all this going on, all the changes that we've had from foreclosures, Airbnb, sellers not deciding to sell, what does inventory look like? Well, here's a quote from Zillow's senior economist. What we didn't expect, especially considering 7+% mortgage rates, was more new listings. So in real estate, we have a seasonal pattern to the residential market. And this last month, we had something that a lot of people who've been in real estate 35 years or more say they have never seen. Now, our data only goes back 7 years, so that's all we can really say as far as from the data perspective of the past 7 years. We have never seen an increase in residential listings in the month of August across the U.S. market. But that is what we are seeing this year. Another thing that's affecting the inventory is where our current homeowners' mortgage rates are at. And we can see from this graphic, 70.7% of mortgage rates are actually less than 4%. And a lot of those sellers who would be buyers, they're just not wanting to let go of that interest rate in order to make that purchase. And so for that particular segment of the market, they're going to be holding out. So on our research, this is what we're calling it lock-in rates limit new inventory, kind of what's going on in those would-be buyers that are sellers. And we can see it's a really small sliver of the market that are really interested in selling their homes. The vast majority of them are probably not selling, but you can see from the graphic why our inventory is so low in certain segments. So who are our buyers in our current market right now? Well, it's those buyers who either have a huge equity or have the cash to be able to purchase a home. Research has shown 43% say because they would not need a mortgage, that's why they're going to take advantage of the opportunities in the market right now. So that's 1 in 4 U.S. homeowners say high mortgage rates would not impact their decision on whether to sell their home. And so on this graphic, we have the percent not impacted by generation. It's got the breakdown of those. 35% of the baby boomers say they are not affected by the mortgage rates. So what we're seeing is a lot of equity buyers are also going to be sellers. 38% of Americans today own their home free and clear. They do not have a mortgage. 30% have more than 50% equity in their home, meaning if they own a $400,000 home, they have at least $200,000 in equity. And then when you look all the way down the graph and go around, you see 0 to 9% equity. That's just the minimal equity. That's only 2% of people in the country right now. So on this infographic, we've got the percent change in home prices over the past 5 years through the second quarter of 2023. And so your national average is at 57.3%. On this graphic, we've got the percent change in home prices from 1991 to the second quarter of 2023. The national average, 297.7%. So Americans are really sitting on a tremendous amount of equity in their home, and those equity homeowners are really taking advantage of the market right now. And so if you're one of those and you're thinking that you want to make a shift or change, let us know. We can let you know. We can do an equity evaluation of your home. So our CoreLogic second quarter equity report came out, and it was really fantastic news for our homeowners. It showed that the average U.S. homeowner now has about $290,000 in equity. So that's just a complete opposite of where we thought this market would be turning, and it's really wonderful to see. So there's 3 major advantages to having all that equity. You can be an all-cash buyer in the market, and we are seeing sellers accepting contingency contracts, the ability to give a larger down payment, maybe just have a small mortgage on the home, or if you're wanting to access that equity to go to an assisted living residence. So another change that we have seen in the housing market is that grandparents wish to be with their grandkids. And this is something that has changed since the pandemic. We have seen that parents and grandparents moving closer to each other. So who are our largest amount of sellers in today's market? You guessed it, it's our empty nesters. 77% are dominating the sellers market. They have no children at home, and most of them are wanting to move closer to their grandkids. If you want some in-depth information about this, we can certainly share the NAR report that just came out as far as on grandparents. Are they moving or are they aging in place? We can send that to you just so you can see across the country where people are moving. Part of that NAR report showed what were the #1 reasons that people were moving in 2022 and 2023. 21% want to move closer to their friends or family. Now, we do offer a free professional equity assessment report of your home or your investment property. If you're wanting to see where your property is at in today's market, we certainly can prepare that for you. Okay, so our next topic is current home price appreciation. This is one of the things, it has started since July of 2022. We have seen so many reports on where people would say the 2023 market would shake up, but let's dive into some data. Okay, so we've got a quote from the Wall Street Journal. Home prices aren't falling anymore. The surprisingly quick recovery suggests that the residential real estate downturn is turning out to be shorter and shallower than many housing economists expected after mortgage rates soared last year. Well, they fell for a little bit of time and then they came right back again. From January through August, housing demand stabilized, resulting in relatively stable home prices. By August of 2023, national resale home prices fully recovered from the client's experience in the second half of 2022. Let's take a look at the case shiller, the FHFA, in the CoreLogic report, which we give you a copy of every single month, an updated version. What happened at the beginning of last year? Prices appreciated way too high, way too much, and they were much greater than they should have been. There needed to be a correction, and there was. The red bars and now appreciation is much more on the historical norm. So those are the three indexes. Here's another three. They're all showing the same thing. As a matter of fact, the FHFA shows that in every single region of the country, prices are up. And if we go to the case shiller, every single of the 20 cities they cover, all 20 cities are up. But I know people are going to say, well, what about Seattle? What about Phoenix? Well, let's take a look at some more data. Well, all of those cities are coming back, each one of them in the last month. Month 3, as far as that quarter, it is in July because there's a lag time between the case shiller. We see that they're all up 1% in a month. So yes, prices are coming back even in the hardest situations. There will be some cities that is an exception to the rule. Austin's still getting hit pretty hard. New Orleans and southern Louisiana are still really hit by the market. Boise, Idaho is also being hit hard. But if you're not looking at one of those cities as far as selling, it's really a good forecast that's out there. So this is from July 2023 by region. The national rate of appreciation is at 0.8%, but you can see we're seeing positive signs all across the U.S. And this is our graphic on the case shiller home price movement from July 2023 month over month percentage in the top 20 cities. So what about future home prices? What does the data indicate for us? Okay, so the chief economist from CoreLogic says home prices are still expected to re-accelerate and reach mid-single digit growth rate by the end of the year. There's a lot of things that are in the forecast, but it's all making it look like 2024 to 2025 are going to be really healthy markets. So on this graph, we've got 2023 year-end home price forecast, and you've got the breakdown of the different companies out there from Zillow to Fannie Mae. The average of all 6 of those is 3.3% is what they're feeling the 2023 year-end price appreciation forecasts are going to be. Okay, so this is what they are forecasting in Q3 2023 going forward. So they're showing for 2023, we're going to have 3.32%, 2024 to 2.17. But we can start to see 2025 that things are going to be start picking back up to that rate. It's all going to depend on those mortgage rates and when they can get them down into that 5.5% rate. Well, if you love data and you love real estate, there is a deep dive on Facebook on the Keeping Current Matters Facebook page. It's Monday at 11 a.m.